Good morning, everyone. Hello again. So you've heard over the past day or two, we've been giving hints about DigitalHub, we've been giving hints about ShipbuildingPLM, and this kind of source of truth. You know, again, I mentioned what Pedro said the other day. He said, wouldn't it be nice to have a source of truth about your ship other than the ship itself, right? For a number of reasons, to refer back to it, and then once it's been commissioned, you know, to help with MRO activities, maintenance, and overhaul, that kind of thing. So DigitalHub is SSI's new shipbuilding information platform. So here's the situation, you're all familiar with it. We must build ships on time, on budget, with high quality, but having this as the system. And you saw this in Nick Dinese's presentation from yesterday. These things, you know, come about organically. They come about with the best intentions, but they can get unwieldy over time. And I'll come back to that point in a bit. Really, the problem that I'm trying to state in that graphic is that, you know, managing product data is still one of the central challenges of this industry. Well, what do I mean by product data? Basically, any information that helps with the construction, testing, delivery, and the post-delivery activities of a vessel, of a ship. So specifically, you know, we have specifications, requirements, vendor-furnished information, and so on, as you can see here. Lots of different kinds of information. How do you manage it effectively and communicate it effectively? So let's talk about how we are trying to solve some of these challenges. So the first challenge is, how do we get a unified and consistent view of product data? We have a multitude of Excel files. You know, we all talked about how Excel is one of the best tools ever, but it's one of the worst curses ever because it grows unwieldy so quickly, and then who's maintaining it? Access databases, file servers, SharePoint, ERP systems, MRP systems, so on and so forth. So can we do better? Can we unify it somehow? And it's not an easy problem. The other challenge is making it clear when data is ready. And I'll give an example, like even with ShipConstructor, you know, you'll have your CAD environment, but like Dennis mentioned the other day, it's a work in progress. Again, to use that analogy, it's like a painting. You know, you have something there, and then the next day somebody paints over it, and somebody paints over it again, and you lose the history. And sometimes you need the history to understand what happened and to improve your processes. But nonetheless, a lot of the time we're producing our documentation off of that live document. We're sending things to our ERP, MRP off of that live document, cutting machines off of the live document. And so, you know, consuming unmanaged data directly from a live system can pose a significant data governance risk. Why? Well, is data still undergoing change? I mean, for smaller projects, smaller teams, it's easy just to pick up the phone and say, hey, or walk down the hall and say, okay, it's ready now, start working on it. But as you're dealing with distributed teams, worldwide teams, you don't want to make the mistake of having like your production team start doing stuff when you're not ready. So we have to have these very clear gates of control. Do others know to avoid, you know, the converse? Do others know to stop editing a document, stop editing a model, stop changing a production drawing if it has been released? Because once it's been released, you basically have a contract. You don't want to go changing that from under people. So that brings us to our solution for this problem. DigitalHub has 5 key deliverables. And if there's, you know, anything you can take away from this, it's these points. So we want to make sure that we're delivering a centralized platform for product data, and more importantly, for the relationships between them, between parts and its nests, models and their production drawings. These should all be related in a centralized place. It creates a foundation for the future. By that I mean, a lot of the challenge is just getting the data, taming the data, putting it in one spot, relating it. And then the future holds workflows and improving your processes, whether you be a design center or a shipyard or whatever. It's shipbuilding specific. There are other products out there on the market that serve manufacturing industries in general, But this being from SSI, shipbuilding is part of our DNA, and we've tried to craft it in a way that solves the shipbuilding industry's problems. It provides an understanding of changes. This is key. As Nick was saying, change is constant, change is always happening. You've heard this many times. But if the software can't make it easy to track these changes, it's kind of missing the mark. So you want to be able to track changes and manage them. But perhaps the most important benefit, and this comes back to the roundtable discussion yesterday when I was asked, what's the most practical thing you could suggest? It would be DigitalHub because it provides this centralized view of things from day one. Like really, we've designed it so that you can set it up, import your data, and immediately see things that maybe you couldn't see before. So that is a big benefit. Okay, let's talk about how we built this solution. So we began with the SSI Enterprise Platform. As you know, it's our efficient product data delivery automation system. We harvest data from ShipConstructor projects and transform them into formats that are consumable, that are useful for our partners, for integrations, for machines, visualizations, and so on. But again, it's really still connecting to kind of a live system. So these questions remain. How does change in ShipConstructor impact product data downstream? Which stakeholders need to receive updates? How can I be sure that all this product data is managed as one data set, that it's all aligned, that you don't have some stuff that's new, some stuff that's stale? How do you know that it's all aligned? And more importantly, how can I see or how can I browse relationships between this data? Because sometimes you'll be talking about one kind of format, one kind of drawing, and it gets you thinking, well, what about that other thing? And then you got to go digging for that other thing. Well, in this case, you just click because it's part of the related link, and then you can continue the conversation very easily. So this is what we have right now, connecting through Enterprise Platform, but basically to a live system. And what we want to do is move that over and put in this information management platform, DigitalHub, which I've tried to illustrate here that it has a sense of archiving. It takes snapshots from Enterprise Platform, perhaps daily or overnight, and it builds a history. And so you can always be sure that you're getting the latest, or if you have a question about what happened a week ago, you can go back like a time machine and see what's happening. And from there, you can control the release of information to your integration points. So you have consistent managed product data, accessible by all downstream stakeholders. Really, it's your 360-degree view of all product data from within one application. So to recap, the problem is we have systems like this. We came about them honestly, but they can be hard to scale. They're opaque. Data is hard to discover. They're fragile. You have islands of data everywhere, and they're connected sometimes tenuously. I have a picture of these gentlemen here. Well, what if one of them goes on vacation, the other one retires? Like, that flow of information is now at risk. Who else knows how to do that thing? So following on to that, it's maintenance risk. You have a mixture of multiple homegrown and commercial solutions, but who really owns it? Lack of scalability. What might work, and probably did work for small designs, might not work as you're growing your business, as you take on bigger projects. And really, this is a competitive disadvantage. Inefficiencies can happen with systems like this. Inefficiencies lose bids, and you can make mistakes, and mistakes cost money. So SSI solution with DigitalHub, well, what is it? And I'll be showing you actual screenshots and everything in a second. But it's easily discoverable data. It's web browsable. Parts, drawings, assemblies, and their relationships. It's a centralized platform that is commercially supported by SSI. System of record, your time machine that tracks changes to the data across the lifespan of a project. And it's configuration managed. We can control when things are still being worked on and being designed, and when they're issued. And it's extensible to support future workflows that drive shipyard efficiencies. Okay, so let's talk about this platform and how you'd navigate it. So here we have DigitalHub which is built upon the Eris PLM system. You know, this is coming back to that platform of platform ideas. Eris PLM itself is an open platform, and SSI ShipConstructor Enterprise Platform is an open platform. So we've joined forces and to produce a digital hub. And you can see here in the navigation bar, we have our classes of ships, or different hulls, blocks within our hull, assemblies, parts, spools, the different kind of drawings, your plate nests, your profile nests. All this data is captured. And so we can go to a block, and you can see its name, the revision it's at, how many generations it's encountered as we work on it. A quick little view of a Navisworks file. All this is pre-generated. You don't have to wait for it. It's all there. This, you don't have to get into the details of it. The point of this slide is to show that there's a relationship of data. You know, the block owns assemblies and spools, and we use this structure to kind of join the information together and to make it navigable. So we can go from a block down to an assembly, over to a spool in case of a piping system, and maybe you want to dig into a certain part on that spool. Likewise, if you're in a part and you can start at the part level and you can go back to the spool level, and you can go up and down the chain as you like, depending on what you're trying to do. So I'm going to jump forward a bit. Okay. So we can have an assembly. Let's say we're interested in a sub-assembly of that and a plate part on there. And you're interested, okay, here's a plate part. What about its nest? So you can go to its nest. You can see the nest drawing. You can see the details about the nest. And you can also find, maybe there's another part on that plate nest that you want to go back. You can go back to the plate part. And similarly, profile parts you can find. You can take them to the profile nest. You can go back to the part. So you're surfing your ship, just like you surf the web, right? Here it is, all in one spot, pre-generated. So let's talk about the controlled release of engineering product data. So we have what we call life cycles, and this is early stages, it's still evolving, but basically you're in preliminary, you do your work, then it goes for review. Maybe you find some problems, some flashes, you have to go preliminary, and so on, until your review is passed, and then it's released. That's your contract. That goes out to planning. That goes out to production. Post-release changes can be handled by these other life cycles, but basically the message is each item has a life cycle, and we track its state. So at any point you can go browse and say, has this thing been released or not? Or is it still being worked on? It's very clear. Anybody with a web connection can see what's happening. And also understanding change. Let's say that some new work comes in. Maybe it's from your own team, maybe it's from a subcontractor. And here you can see very quickly your change list. These are some new pipes. This is a new spool. These are some changed pipes, a changed spool. There might even be deleted items. But you can quickly see at a glance and click and find out about that part. And you can even go into time machine mode and say, well, what was the part? What is the part? Put it into Navisworks, compare it visually. Very powerful. DigitalHub also will work with 3D visualization of change, like I mentioned. So here we have a Navisworks session that's shown up. And this works even better with our Ship Explorer plugin. And so here you can see these are some pipes. This one might have been deleted. These ones might have been moved. This one is maybe the same. And so you can color code it as you wish, but you can quickly develop a visual methodology to quickly review things. And then you can dig into the details as needed, but this is a great starting point. So I like to go over the 3-year roadmap, and the usual disclaimers apply. These are our plans. Plans may change, but the intent is DigitalHub underlies everything with our ShipbuildingPLM platform. And it's the parts and the relationships. And we're going to be adding parts. We're going to be adding systems, for instance, and so on. So that's always happening, but the first thing we want to issue on top of DigitalHub is our shipbuilding PLM standard. So now we're talking about the workflows and things like that. The target is engineering, and we're looking at things like basic reports, BOM compare, roll-ups, and managing handoff between engineering and planning. The larger issue is to expose data to the wider shipyard. I think that is key. The fact that you have a lot of data is great. Now, how can people consume it? Very easily by web browsing. So I think, I'd recommend that, talk to me, talk to Dennis afterwards, talk to your resellers. Try it out. Just see what data you have. And that might fire your imagination and start more conversations. In the follow-on year, we're looking at integrating more with engineering and planning, weld planning estimation, functional design, multi-hull change management, like I mentioned in my other presentation, and adding in welds, physical measurement units, compartments. And then finally with our ShipbuildingPLM Ultimate, really we're going enterprise-wide. We're talking about catalog management, requirements management, weld execution, MRO workflows. So you see we're starting from engineering because that's all, where most of us are coming from. And then we're branching out into the larger shipbuilding business. But it's a great platform, and it can serve all these different departments and users. So that concludes my presentation on the DigitalHub Shipbuilding Information Platform.